This is an example of resonance.
Resonance is when one object is vibrating at a certain frequency and it causes another object to vibrate at its natural frequency as well. Here's an example we can all relate to. We have a kid on a swing and we want to get him started. We give him a push. Well, then we can push again. And with each little push, the amplitude increases. When do we do the push? We have to push at the same frequency that the swing naturally wants to vibrate at. Well, that's the same thing with the tuning forks. This tuning fork produces a compression wave, goes in the hole here, starts to make this thing move. When it's ready to spring back, the next wave has to come in and hit it, and it keeps building up, making the amplitude larger and larger. We say that the two objects are resonating. We see examples of resonance in our lives all the time. On the school bus, the engine of the bus gets to a certain rate, and all of a sudden the windows start to rattle, and then the acceleration increases and the windows stop rattling. It's only going to work at a certain frequency. I had a Volkswagen diesel Rabbit once. That thing got to a certain RPM of the engine and the car antenna would start to wobble and go crazy, and then all of a sudden you get above that RPM and it would die out again. Here, just take a look at this. When would you want to push on this kid? At any frequency that you feel like? It just doesn't seem to work well, does it? You know, if you did it in real life and the kid was coming back while you're trying to go forward, hey, I think you're going to knock your teeth out. So you want to do this right at the right moment and synchronize it, and the amplitude builds up. If you don't, it's going to die out. Let's see how that idea works with the tuning forks. I've taped a couple of quarters to one tine on this tuning fork. Now listen to the frequency. This one's lower. Well, yeah, I've added mass to it. By adding mass, it's going to cause it to slow down. Let's see if we get the resonance. It didn't pick up. How come? They're not at the same frequency anymore. Well, here we have another example of resonance. Now, how is that resonance? Listen. The glass naturally wants to vibrate at that frequency. My finger is going to create friction with the rim. It's going to stick and release, stick and release. Listen. With the right amount of pressure, at the right rate, I get the sticking and releasing to vibrate at the same frequency as the glass. Now, you're going to need to know how to do this for the prom, so you got to get a glass like this and try it yourself. You can't hold the glass like this. Nah, no one's going to want to sit at your table. Okay, you got to hold it down at the base because this base is what allows the glass to vibrate. Here's another example of resonance. Martinelli's sparkling cider. Okay, I'll have a little bit of water in here. Listen. How is this resonance? The column of air in the bottle is acting like a spring, and there's turbulence set into the bottle by my breath. That spring is bouncing up and down. Let me show you what I mean. You've all played with the Slinky. It's a spring, and it wants to vibrate at a certain frequency depending on its length. Hey, the same thing with the air in the bottle. It's acting like a spring that wants to bounce up and down. Now you can see the bottom coils are moving a great distance. Well, the molecules at the top are going to move a great distance. So it's kind of like this thing upside down. Air molecules at the bottom can't move because there's a barrier down there. That's a fixed end. This is a free end. So this is the free end and that's the fixed end. So we want to just flip this upside down and imagine that when I blow into here, I create a little compression that starts to reflect and bounce up and down. I can create a standing wave in the air column due to the turbulence. When I blow just right, the frequency of my vibrations matches the natural vibration of the air column. And that's another example of resonance. Now I want you to do this at home. You've got to find yourself a glass stem. Don't hold the glass up here. And I want you to make me a little video of you doing this. And I want you to blow in the bottle and record this. Well, the next part is you're going to add water or take water away and make a prediction as to what's going to happen to the frequency. You're going to do the same thing with this. You're going to add water and take water out and blow in it. Find out what happens to the pitch. Does it go up? Does it go down? Do you get the same results with both? Well, this is similar to pushing a kid on the swing and asking yourself, what happens if the swing got shorter? Oh, we changed the frequency. So I would have to push at a different frequency to match the frequency of this swing. If I make the swing longer, I'm going to have to reduce my frequency that I push with so that I can resonate with the swing. And just a word to the wise, a small opening is what you're going to need. You can't do this with a wide mouth jar. Now, rather than use an irregularly shaped bottle, I'll use a cylinder. We're going to put a fixed end at the bottom by putting this in the water. Now the sound can come in, compress the air, and it's going to start to bounce back and forth, up and down. This column of air is going to shake. Now I got to get the microphone right up here so you can hear this. I don't really hear much difference. But if I pull the tube up so the air has just the right length, it starts to get louder. Well, we've just made the column of air resonate at its natural frequency. Well, what if I try a longer tube? Yeah, that got louder. What's going on here is I have a free end and a free end. And so here I have a half a wave standing. Here, when I put this end in the water, I had only a quarter of a wave standing. With this tube in the water, one end was fixed, one end was free. So it's going to resonate at a different frequency. The column of air wants to shake at one frequency in this way. And in this one, it's going to want to shake at a different frequency. Some diagrams are going to help explain all this. I hold the tuning fork at the open end. The top end is free, the bottom end is fixed. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, there's a barrier here, and the air molecules cannot move against this. The air molecules are not allowed to move back and forth. They're going to hit the wall. Up here, they're free to move back and forth. As the tuning fork moves up and down, it sends compression waves back and forth through the air column. Now, it's really hard to draw the compressional waves, as you know, so we're going to draw transverse wave to represent them. Up here, this means the air molecules are up. Over here, this means the air molecules have gone down. Well, at this end, they can't go either way, so they're just going to be at a node. We're graphing the displacement of the air molecules. We're not really talking about the air pressure. The air pressure out here has to stay the same because it's open to the environment. So the length of air that's resonating is 1/4 of a wave. We can say that 1/4 of a wavelength is equal to the length of this column of air. Now we can adjust this length of column of air by moving the PVC pipe up or down in the water. Time for a little math. What is this frequency? We use 384 Hertz. And you know velocity equals frequency times wavelength. Velocity of sound is probably about 340 meters per second. Using that frequency, we can find the wavelength. I get 0.895 meters. Now, is that the length of the column of air that will vibrate? Nope. It's got to be 1/4 of a wavelength. The length should be about 0.224 meters. All right, how does that look? Pretty close. Let's test it again. I don't have the water here, but I have it taped up. So I've caused a fixed end on this side.
Let's see how it works.
It has to be the right frequency. Now take a look at these two tuning forks and tell me which one is the higher frequency. 384, 288. Hey, it's the shorter of the two, which makes sense. The shorter this is, the less inertia it'll have. It'll vibrate quicker. Now let's imagine I had a much longer tube stuck down into a lot of water. I'm going to zoom out on my picture a little, still use the 384 hertz tuning fork, and we're going to draw the waves as they go down the tube. If the water level was here, we'd have a quarter of a wave and it would resonate. The node is at the fixed end where the water level is, so it matches, it works. If I lowered the water to this point, it won't work. We have a maximum here. I need a node because it's a fixed end, so this will not resonate. But what if I lowered the water down to here at the next node? Well, that's a fixed end, a node would be there, and I could get the standing wave to resonate in the tube of this length. Well, I've just added half a wave. That means I have 3/4 of a wave standing here. So once the water level drops to here, it'll sound loud again. And if I drop the water level here, it'll be quiet because it won't stand in this length of tube. I need a node. Now remember, that end is free, this end is fixed. Well, here I have a longer tube that's free on both ends. And you have to get used to drawing the diagrams, whether they're vertical or horizontal. What's the simplest standing wave that can stand in a free end tube? It'll look like this, with a node in the middle. If this end is free, the air is free to move back and forth. This end will be free to move back and forth. The length of this tube now is at 1/2 of a wavelength. We have a crest going to a trough. I kind of sort of have this tube cut to about the right length for this tuning fork. Let's see if we can hear it get louder. I've got the microphone on this end, and I'll put the tuning fork on the other end. Try that again. And now I'll try it with the other tuning fork. Not getting much with that one. All right, we got better results with the 384 hertz tuning fork. Let's calculate the length of the tube. Putting in our data, the wavelength is 0.885 meters, but that's not the length of the tube. We only need half a wavelength, 0.443 meters. Let's see what we get. Take a look. All right, not bad, pretty close. Well, let's just work out one more example. I've got the same tube, but I'm going to try a different tuning fork and see if I can get a resonance. A fundamental is half a wave. We could try for the second harmonic. The tube is still free at both ends, so I need to have a crest and a trough, a crest and a trough. I cannot have a node at each end. I can have the nodes here. Notice I have one node, now I have two. I've had half a wave, now I have a full wave. So the length is going to be equal to one wavelength. Can you use this to calculate the frequency? Well, this time we're using the length of the tube. Frequency? Yep, it's 767.5 hertz. Okay, we round that up. and it's double the frequency. We cut the wavelength in half, so we have to double the frequency. So I could go find myself that size tuning fork, and I would get a resonance in the same length tube. Now, you probably don't have tuning forks at home. Go download a frequency generator on your phone. You won't believe the fun you're going to have playing with the frequencies. Now, if you can find a tube around the house, do the calculations, and put the speaker up to the end of the tube with the right frequency, you should probably hear a resonance. Good luck, everybody.